evening and welcome to Weekend News on the Salem Broadcasting Corporation. I am Daphne Kimel-Macaulay. Coming up in this edition of the news, President Bill calls on Our Lady Star of the Sea congregation to continue to have faith in God as the only way out. Salem Union on Disability Issue President says majority of materials needed for pupils with disability were not procured. And the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education prepares for reopening of schools. All the stories and more lined up in this edition of Weekend News with me, Daphne Kimel-Macaulay. And for our first story this evening, President Julius Maada Bio has called on the congregation of Our Lady Star of the Sea to continue to have faith in God as He is the only way out. He made this call during the liturgical celebration of Our Lady Star of the Sea Catholic Church in Juba, West End of Freetown. The theme of the service is faith demonstrated through action. Our reports.
The sermon by Reverend Father Ambrose Michael was centered on suffering, its causes, and how it can be managed or controlled. Citing Peter as an example, Reverend Father Michael quoted several chapters and verses from the Bible, explaining to his congregation what it means to suffer without faith, which, as he described, is death. He called on the church to make room for forgiveness and have faith in the Almighty God. Reverend Father Ambrose Michael prayed for God's divine mercy and grace on the President and the government as well.
No one can cause you. So I'm saying, my president, I'm saying the world's president, I'm saying the president of this country, that those who put it down, let them go. Your miracle is coming. And your miracle has begun. Your miracle is here. But when you hold it against them, can you enter God's miracle? No. I pray for each of us today that as we are here, we are praying for you. We are standing by you. Your name is favored.
Addressing the congregation during the Mass, President Julius Maada Bio said he was proud worshiping with them. He stated that he is a living testimony of the sermon being preached by the Reverend Father. President Bio said faith is when someone truly believes in God as the one who answers prayers. The president recalled that his slogan during his campaign, Pau Pau Salon for Better, was not a show of arrogance, but his good intentions for the country. He said his message of free education was not to garner more votes for the people, but to create an access for the poorest to be educated, and this is now a reality as millions of pupils will benefit from it, he added.
It is truly important and believe that education, knowledge, and the information you need is what will make you survive in the world. And because many cannot afford it, only a few can afford it, I know that yes, it's expensive, yes, it's unaffordable, but I will take the great decision to make it free for everyone.
President Bio asked the congregation to join hands in supporting the New Direction agenda, as he cannot do it alone. He called on the church to continue to pray for the government. SABC TV News Eye in Freetown, Hawamosiri reporting.
The President, Sierra Leone Union on Disability Issues, Santigi Kagbo, has told SLBC that the majority of the materials needed for pupils with disability were not procured by the Ministry of Education ahead of the reopening of schools. He made the statement when he was talking on their findings on the free education ahead of the reopening of schools. According to him, his union has engaged the Minister of Basic Education, who has promised to address their issues. He threw more light on the issue with Francis Danema in this interview.
It's not fully embedded, but you will see the package that should be for persons with disabilities, simply because certain equipment or material that should be given to persons with disability are ongoing. It's on this process. It's on the processing, and so we believe as time goes by, all necessary arrangements with regards equipment and materials for persons with disability will be delivered by the Minister of Education. This is because we are having a meeting continuously now with the Minister and some stakeholders, because we've set up a steering committee.
When we want to say that you are only setting up a committee now, now that schools have almost reopened, why are you so late?
Better late than never. That's fact. And we will say one basic reason we find out was persons with disability specifically, we are not part of the planning process. Because of that, we have so many challenges along the way as at this present. That's why we're calling on the Ministry of Education, having met with the Honorable Minister Timbo, and to expedite whatever process there is for persons with disability. We are very happy that the feed has come in. And
steering committee looking at disability issues is less than 2 weeks old as we are speaking.
Yes, that's the time we are called upon.
But will we be seeing textbooks and other materials in Braille, and sign language materials, and maybe immediate things that maybe the blind will need, and also the hearing impaired will need in the primary and secondary schools?
As at now, they will not be available, but very soon we believe the ministry, DFID and SLUDI, and we will say specifically the steering committee, to make sure it is being expedited and make sure what is needed for persons with disability will be provided.
That was the president of the Sierra Union on Disability Issues, ending that interview with Francis Danema. The International Day of Democracy is commemorated on the 15th of September every year. The day is an opportunity to look for ways to impact democracy and seek answers to challenges it faces. This includes economic and political inequality, making democracy more inclusive, among others. The theme for this year's celebration is the future of democratic good governance in Sierra Leone and democracy understand solutions for changing world respectively. Let's join Rose Konima Stevens.
Sierra Leone joined other countries to commemorate International Day of Democracy. The day is set aside to promote and draw the attention of citizens to the importance of democratic good governance, which is a foundation to sustainable development. World is commemorating Democracy Day, and this is to raise public awareness on the tenets and values of democracy in all countries. As a result of this, I'm here to sound the opinions of Sierra Leoneans as to how they perceive our democracy. People have different perceptions about democracy and good governance. Western Area Commission and National Commission for Democracy, Benjamin McFoy, said that for this year's celebration, they have held a series of activities to raise citizens' consciousness about the virtues of democracy.
We want to embark on having a partnership with APA and the Ministry of Political and Public Affairs in organizing what we call effective management, political and administrative transition of power in Sierra Leone as a result of various events and activities that are held around the world to promote and draw the attention to the importance of democratic and good governance as a foundation of sustainable development.
Sierra Leoneans have different views about democracy. They informed this medium that Sierra Leone is moving towards a better display of democracy, even though there are challenges.
Looking at the current dispensation, Sierra Leone is moving in the right direction. The past election was relatively peaceful as compared to other countries. I could remember a few years back there was a peaceful transition of power from one democratically elected government to another. That tells us that Sierra Leone is moving towards a better democracy. Though there are challenges, but I know even in the United States, Great Britain and other better countries, there are challenges with their democracy.
Mohamed Senesi, together with other Sierra Leoneans, are of the views that violence among political parties and other human rights violations are clear indications that Sierra Leone is below the index of democracy and good governance.
For now, I would say unfortunate.
Our democracy is unfortunate. We were promised good governance in all manifestos presented by the political parties, but we are not enjoying democracy in the country as far as I am concerned.
For me, democracy unfortunate.
Mohamed Kamara, a businessman, said, democracy is just for the elites and not for the less privileged, and democracy is far from Sierra Leone. This clearly shows that the concept of democracy could be relative, depending on status and situations. SLBC News, Rose Konima Stevens.
Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise is the theme for the 5th annual Thanksgiving service of Young Adults Fellowship Aladura headquarters. The celebration saw the induction of new members and fundraising towards the expansion of the cathedral. Princess Gibson has more.
The 5th anniversary of the youth and young adults saw them in high praise. This demonstrates remembrance of the Lord during youthful age. Dilating on the theme, Enter His Gate with Thanksgiving, Bishop Emmanuel Danema described praise as a seed that exploits possibility. He said praise is a requirement to show gratefulness.
Because we are serving a God of all seasons. That's why it's necessary to praise God. Nothing comes outside of praise. Because the Bible says in the beginning, God, he created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void. And the Spirit of God moved, and God said, let there be. Why it is necessary for us to praise God? Because we have a God that moves. We have a God that moves. We have a God that has life. Some have eyes. Some have God, they have eyes, they cannot see. Some have God, they have mouth, they can't speak. Some have God, they have, foot, they can't walk. But we have a God that moves. That's why it's necessary for us to praise God.
He noted that praise is an instruction and could serve as another method to solve problems after moving the heart of the Lord. The president of the Young Adults Fellowship, Charatu Samura, entreated new members to be steadfast and focused in serving the Lord. She said the fellowship has continued to make progress and immensely contributed towards the development of the church. Archbishop Emmanuel Congo commended the fellowship for coming thus far. He said it is not an easy task to keep a young group of people together and called on the leadership to encourage more members into the fellowship. The 5th anniversary of the youth and young adults saw the launching of a project for the rehabilitation of the road leading to the church. Princess Gibson, SLBC News.
Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Network WashNet has shared its findings on the water catchment areas in Freetown with key stakeholders working on environmental issues in Sierra Leone at the Hill Valley Hotel in Freetown. According to the findings of WatchNet, there is massive encroachment and deforestation on water catchment areas in the western area. Francis Danema reports.
19 water catchment areas were visited by staff of WatchNet, members of parliament, Ministry of Water Resources, and other environmental activists in Sierra Leone. Chief Executive Officer WatchNet, Musa Ansmana Soko, said about 79% of the water catchment areas assessed have dried due to encroachment and deforestation. This, he said, will affect the distribution of water in the city by Guma Valley Water Company. He outlined the following recommendations.
We also noted, as part of the recommendations, that stakeholders need to take immediate action on land acquisition. We already recalled in June of 2016, members of parliament, and I'm glad we're having our members of parliament here, adopted 5 solid recommendations, as part of which was the fact that the Ministry of Lands were to put on hold land registration, particularly in areas identified as encroached or areas that were very much close to the water catchments.
Honorable Sheku Muniru Ture of Constituency 99 called on WatchNet to prepare a concrete strategic plan on the issue and share their findings with parliamentarians so that they will take quick action. Outreach and Communications Officer, National Protected Area Authority, NPAA, Ben Lamin, said they were left out during the assessment of the 19 water catchment areas. NPAA has discovered some marijuana farms in the protected areas, and they will be working with law enforcement agencies to raid the marijuana farms. Other participants commended WatchNet for such findings and called for more collaboration in advocating for the reforestation and removing encroachers from the water catchment areas. SLBC News, Francis Danema reporting.
Well, we'll say thanks to Francis Danema for that report. The European Union delegation, in collaboration with Shout, Climate Change Africa and Sierra Leone Consortium for Climate Change, Sustainable Development, and the Ministry of Tourism has organized a global beach cleaning exercise to raise awareness on marine plastic pollution. The event took place at the Lombly Aberdeen Beach in Freetown. Maini Mansare sent in this report.
Plastic littering is one of the reasons of marine pollution in the country. This year's European Union Global Clean Initiative, which coincides with the International Coastal Clean Up Day, is designed to raise awareness on marine plastic pollution. The challenge of marine litter is indeed increasingly drawing public attention. The head of the European Union delegation in Sierra Leone, Ambassador Tom Vance, said most of the plastic litters around the beach end up in the ocean, killing millions of sea animals, which is not good for the environment.
This is not just about cleaning up the beach today. It needs a good cleaning, but this is really to draw everybody's attention to the problem that we're facing with litter of the ocean, marine pollution, and it is something that requires everybody's efforts and everybody's attention.
He called on Sierra Leoneans to stop littering the beach and for the Ministry of Tourism and Freetown City Council to put regulations in place to raise awareness on marine plastic pollution. The mayor of Freetown City Council, Yvonne Akisoya, said that as a council they are dedicated to cleaning the city, including the beaches, to ensure proper sanitation in the city. Plastic littering, she went on, has a negative impact on the environment. She called on Sierra Leoneans to desist the habit of throwing plastics around the city. The Minister of Tourism, Memunatu Pratt, said her ministry is faced with a huge challenge of the environment and climate change, and cleaning the beach is one of her ministry's priorities. She said the beach is being destroyed by human activities and her ministry is working on beautifying the beach to regain its value.
This exercise is part and parcel of the process of promoting and rebranding Sierra Leone. Rebranding and supporting beach cleanup is very, very critical when it comes to ensuring that we prepare our touristic attraction areas, and then also we send a loud message that we need to take care of our environment.
The Minister of Lands, Country Planning and the Environment, Dr. Dennis Sandi, said the new direction is working in line with the United Nations on the managing of the use of plastic for a better and cleaner environment. He added that the government is putting mechanisms in place to punish people who litter plastics along the streets of Freetown.
As parents prepare for the reopening of schools, learning material sellers in Freetown have called on the government to implement the policy which says schools should not sell books. They made this call to SLBC's Umubakar in this report.
2018-2019 academic year is expected to start on the 17th of September. And as a result of this, the last few days towards the reopening of schools has been tense for parents and these traders. More so with the introduction of the free education, which means that more children will be enrolled or go back to school. This is the Central Business District, to be precise, and there are specific areas where shopping for learning materials takes place. Speaking to the SLBC, traders and parents have different views about the whole process. Some parents say things are difficult, while others say the situation is still the same. Luke Tucker is a parent and teacher who went to shop ahead of the reopening of schools. He says the overcrowded situation is not a strange thing, because some parents are just in the habit of shopping for their children at 11th hour, while others do it because of difficult times. Josephine Yamba is a parent who went shopping. She says things are not really difficult.
Well, for me, I would say thanks to God for the prize, because I was able to buy all what I wanted with the little money I had, while before now it was difficult to buy with such money.
But Dauda Yansane has a different view, because these parents will actually want to buy at a price that is next to nothing.
Well, if I say they are not coming to buy, we are telling lies. But the only problem we have is that they are not paying the right price. We have to sell because we are also parents and we understand the economic situation in the country.
Even though the free education is expected to start this academic year, there are some things the parents will have to do, one of which is to buy some textbooks. Mukhtar Shilon is a bookseller. He noticed that some parents are actually going to buy the remaining books that are not part of the free education package. So he made this appeal.
We really need the government to help us in ensuring that schools do not sell books, because that is the only way we can survive, as some schools will sell books to the parents.
On the whole, parents are struggling to fit into the free education package, as pronounced by the President, Julius Maada Bio, for the country. SLBC News, Umubaka reporting.
The Sierra Leone Correctional Service has rolled out its key accomplishments since the institution was transformed from prisons to correctional center. The transformation was supported by the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs of the U.S. Department of State through the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. Patrick Salah reports.
Since the establishment of the Sierra Leone Correctional Service through an Act of Parliament in 2014, the United Nations Development Program and the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs have been supporting the institution to enhance its capacity. Director General of the Correctional Service, Sanfa Bilo Kamara, said they were pleased to receive the support that has helped transform the institution. He called on INL, the UNDP, and the Correctional Service to continue beyond the scope of such a project. Deputy Director General Joseph Lamboy recognized the impact of the support received during the transformation. Over a period of almost 2 years, the institution has improved accommodation to address overcrowding in the prison. The local industries, according to Dennis Harman, Human Resource Director, were also supported with production equipment. Heads of administration say they have developed productive outfit in carpentry, hairdressing, shoemaking, tailoring, and arts and crafts. Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dr. Priscilla Schwartz, committed government support to promote the human rights and dignity of inmates, emphasizing the importance of these reforms. U.S. Ambassador to Sierra Leone Maria Brewer said a country should be judged by the way it treats its prisoners. Over the past 3 years, Madam Brewer said the U.S. government has provided more than $1.3 million in assistance to the Sierra Leone Correctional Service, adding that this support is keen on helping the institution develop capacity to treat its inmates better. The Minister of Internal Affairs, Edward Suluku, noted that the problem of inadequate infrastructure is as a result of low budgetary support by the former government. He, however, committed that the government of President Bio will change the situation. At the event, Life by Design unveiled 30 social workers who received training in assessing criminogenic needs of inmates and delivering appropriate intervention programs. 45 officers were also trained on how to develop and run successful businesses as a prelude to establishing the industries within the service.
And now for some entertainment news. Entertainment Union in Magboruka is planning their general elections in mid-September to elect their president and executive. 3 main aspirants for the presidency came out boldly with intentions to shape the Magboruka entertainment industry to a better one. Our entertainment producer Mohammed King Milan Bangura was at that part of the country and sent in this report.
I'm still in search of talent in the entertainment industry across the country. Recently, I visited the northern part of the country in McKinney City, where I found a love for entertainment positive, and it's not only limited to the artists but also the populace who bear the greatest responsibility in motivating the young talent from that area by showing them their support in buying their albums and attending their shows. I also took a trip to Magboruka, about 8 miles from McKinney, in search of more talent. Entering Magboruka that afternoon, I sensed a sign of peace and undoubtedly an entertaining environment. I came to understand that there are 3 recording studios in Magboruka, but the leading one that has recorded hit songs in that area is Kuldi Studio, owned by a young sound engineer, Abbas Sakor, a former recording artist whose stage name is Kuldi. When someone has talent, you have to push them. As an elder and engineer as well, it's my duty to help someone who is trying so hard, and I'm here to do that for them. I met the Artists Union planning their general election for mid-September to elect their president and executive. 3 main aspirants for the presidency came out boldly with the intention to shape the Magboruka entertainment industry to a better one. The 3 aspirants are Alhaji S. Lako, aka Step G, who is a rapper, Paul Escoma, aka Father P, a singer and a rapper, and also Abubakar Tuwe, aka 40P, a traditional singer.
A lot, and I've started, because for a few months, I just sit and then thought that I'm supposed to bring up something like an entertainment instrument, so like the artists in Tongolili, because I'm not only planning up to help Magboruka people, but like the whole of Tongolili, and even beyond. So it's but that I need to buy an entertainment instrument like a set.
Okay. For my first target is when I take up the mantle of leadership, I'll make sure that I improve the union in the way that we stop all the loopholes that is being developed, that is being wrecked this union. I'll make sure that I block all those loopholes. And the other thing again, I'll make sure that I provide a lot of funds within the artist union. Because presently, as I'm talking to you, we don't have no fund. The union, President Magboruka Artist Union, there is no fund. When I take the mantle of leadership, I will make sure that we have a lot of fun in the union.
My own passion for now, of
course, by God's grace, if God make me for me to be the president of Maboka Artists Union, I want to help the upcoming artists. Like I've already spoke with my manager in England. I think from now to December, I will go into a standard studio. Of course, I want to help the undergrounds.
The election has been slated for the 24th of September, and tension is seriously mounting between the aspirants and their supporters. I hope that the outcome of the election will be peaceful and quiet. I'm patiently waiting for the invitation of the electoral body, as they have decided to invite me as an observer. Until then, I wish them good luck.
Well, to end the news, the main points again. President Bill has called on Our Lady Star of the Sea congregation to continue to have faith in God, as He is the only way out. Sierra Leone Union on Disability Issues President has said that majority of materials needed for pupils with disability were not procured. And the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education is prepared for the reopening of schools. That's all we have time for in this edition of Weekend News. Thanks for your company. I am Daphne Kimamakoli.
Welcome to the Big Falls Hotel.
Julie expects to exchange more pins with tourists from around the world today and wear them on his tuxedo.
We need to send you a flat one, don't we, so you don't lose it off here.
This experienced doorman in the lobby of the Victoria Falls Hotel in Zimbabwe enjoys seeing off old friends and welcoming new ones.
Let me take you inside there. Now you've come to the...
Besides his concierge work, Julie is also responsible for the luggage department. When there is too much work for his bellhops, he'll lend a hand.
Okay, would you mind to come with me to the check-in point, please? Hello, Mama. Yes, come with me. Mind? Julie. To the left of the bridge, that is Zimbabwe. What you see, something burning there, that is the mighty falls. The real name of the falls is called Mosia Tunya. It means the smoke that thunders. On your left, that's Zimbabwe. On the right, that's Zambia. At the mid, that's where people do bungee jumping. That is 111 meters.
As the largest and most spectacular waterfall in Africa, the Victoria Falls is revered by tourists all around the world. It's said that there are women beating djembe drums deep in the pools under the waterfall.